Hi, I'm Mrs. Arcari. I'm the Farmington Room librarian of the Farmington Library. Emily Platts and I, our teen librarian here, are making this little video to help you find your Paideia resources. So now to start with, when you come into the Farmington Room, please sign in our book here. And for Paideia students, put your topic in the last column so we know which topic you're working on. Now, just to give you a little bit of layout on the Farmington Room, you see all the books here, and these are cataloged. You will find their numbers in the catalog, which is over here, which you can't see at this moment. You will find some of your things here. Now, I pulled out a few of things that I want to show you because they're pertinent to your topics. For instance, we have things on the canal, such as Canal Days in America. We have a book on country depots, which of course relates to transportation and early railroads. We have a very nice little memoir by a man named Charles Norton, who actually lived in Plainville, but Plainville, of course, was part of Farmington in the early days. It split off about the time of the Civil War. He has written some very interesting reminiscences of his parents who were abolitionists, and you'll find these and also photocopies in the Paideia Box, which I'll show you later. Over here, we have things on medicine. They'll be in this section in the 600s. For instance, we have a book on smallpox, King of Terrors, and those of you who are studying medicine and are going to Hospital Rock will find this very interesting. Material on education. For instance, this book, Sarah Porter Educates Useful Ladies. Of course, this is only about the Porter School. And I'll tell you more about what we have on the public schools in a bit. Underground Railroad in New England. Now, I understand you're not doing the Amistad, but I would urge you to look at some of this Amistad material that's in the number 326, especially the letters in the beginning of this big notebook. They're called Amistad letters, but there's a lot of material on abolition in here that you might want to take a look at. Another book on Farmington versus slavery talks about the Underground Railroad in Farmington, so this is a real must for you. Now, over here, you see these metal filing cabinets. This is what we call the clippings file, or we used to call it the pamphlet file. So whichever one, it still relates to the same thing. Most of the things in here are newspaper clippings from the local papers. Many of them will go back quite a time, but you'll also find brochures, small pamphlets, and in here you'll find things on abolition, in the A's, of course. Farmington Canal, we have several pamphlets on, or files on the Farmington Canal. We have medicine and one called physicians, and there's a good bit of material on Dr. Eli Todd and other Farmington physicians. He wasn't the only one, you know. Under physicians, you'll find that. We have things on Unionville that may clue you into the industry in Unionville. We have lots of other books that you can look at that I haven't pointed out to you, but on the sheet that I left on the Paideia cart, which is out at reference, it will give you some call numbers and suggestions for things that you can use. Now, be sure that you look at this box, which I call the Paideia Box, and you can see that it says that on the top. In here, I have put some photocopies of original documents. Some of the materials, particularly for the Civil War, some of the original books and so forth are quite fragile, and I really don't want you to try photocopying because they're just too fragile to do that. But you will find copies in here that I have stapled to a folder, and you will be able to photocopy these for your reports. These sheets give you the soldiers from Farmington, not all of them, of course, but they're marked with a little red mark, and it also gives you the soldiers of Connecticut's 29th Regiment, which you probably know was the state's first black regiment, and there were quite a few men from Farmington in there. So the Civil War has several files there, and then if you go back, you'll find industry and trades, medicine and diseases, the role of women, and don't forget these articles from the Farmington Historical Society newsletters, which talk about women, mostly in the 20th century, who really did a lot for Farmington in one way or another. One of them was Julia Brandegie, who established the first really public library, but there's several other people that you probably don't know about that you might want to read up on. So this is the Paideia Box, and you'll find quite a bit of material in here. You're welcome to photocopy any or all of this, but please don't take the materials that are here. If you don't have money for photocopy, go ahead and make your copies, and we'll make it a gift from the library. Now, we have another source that I'll tell you about. It won't be appropriate for everybody, but for those of you who can use it, it may be very helpful, especially with pictures. And that is the American Heritage magazines. We have a whole cart full of American Heritage magazines right here, and especially the ones all the way over here, which have quite a few things on medicine and other articles that are appropriate for Paideia. And these, you may also photocopy these. Please don't cut them up, but you can photocopy them. And I put markers in here that will tell you what topics they're related to. Basically, those are the things we have, but I should also tell you that there's a cart out by the reference department that has books that are on reserve for you that you may use here in the library that have good basic information on all of your topics, with the exception probably of the Flood of 55. There really are no books per se on the Flood of 55, but we do have a lot of pictures, and I do have things in the clippings file that you can copy. I think that Emily and I will try to scan some of those pictures and make them available to you online, but we haven't had time to do that yet, and maybe we can do that next week. That will give you just a little bit of information about how to go and about finding your resources here. One thing I would like to suggest to you is that when you come in the evening or in the weekends with a parent. I think it's not such a great idea to come with your friends, because I know, and you know yourself, you don't really get a lot done that way. The material is here, and of course this material is available to researchers from anywhere and everywhere, adults, graduate students, whatever. So I would urge you to take care of the materials and make sure that they're kept in good order for the next patron who might be writing a book or creating a video or something like that, and they need to use them as much as you do. Thanks. Don't hesitate to call me if you have any questions or I can be of help.